The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA.
Miami couldn't keep pace with Indiana on Thursday, but the real story is Jimmy Butler's post-game interview.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast.
The story is Jimmy Butler's extremely candid and revealing press conference where he claimed that he was unhappy, suggested he might want to play elsewhere, took repeated shots at the coaching staff and how he's being used, and when asked if he could find joy in Miami, Butler said, quote, "Probably not," end quote. We've posted the full press conference on our YouTube page, but here's the part where he basically issues what amounts to a trade request.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court, but I want to be back to somewhat dominant. I want to hoop. I want to help this team win. Right now, I'm not doing that.
Can you get your joy back here on the court?
Probably not.
So first, credit to Tim Reynolds for the question. I was in the media room when that happened, and you could hear a pin drop. I'm sure if you were just watching it and hearing it for the first time, you're just like, wow, that's as close to a trade request as it gets. But we don't even have to get close. We could just get the trade request because ESPN, minutes after all of this, reports with Shams Charania and Brian Windhorst that Jimmy Butler has told the Heat that he wants to be traded. So, David, your reaction, how did we get here?
It's not a great subject. And I feel like we're kind of addressing it somewhat glibly because it's just happened. And so this is kind of a whirlwind of breaking down the news. By the time everybody hears this episode Friday morning, maybe they'll have had time to digest it, and maybe it will be a very different reaction from a large swath of our listenership. But right now, we went from getting pasted by the Pacers to hearing from Jimmy Butler and obviously unhappy here in South Florida to a full-out confirmation that he has requested a trade from the front office, all within a span of a very short amount of time.
My head hurts.
And so, yeah, it's kind of hard to digest. It's kind of hard to kind of just take it all in. And there's no sense of how things have so quickly degraded. This is all just falling apart from hearing him kind of joke with media and kind of playfully say, well, I'm going to, play, I'm going to do this, I'm going to complete, I'm going to play hard. And then having him in back-to-back games, clearly not play hard, and yet bristle at the suggestion, perhaps from Eric Spoelstra or maybe some other team official, according to the report from ESPN, that he wasn't playing hard, even though
on Wednesday
anybody watching the game, on Wednesday against the Pelicans, although anybody watching the game could say, well, that's not the Jimmy that we've expected or that we've seen on so many different occasions rise to the challenge. So,
well, can I jump in there? I'm sorry, because that's such a great point that you bring up, and we should clear. So, like I said, the full press conference is out there. I tweeted at WC Goldberg on Twitter. I did the whole transcription, so you could just read it there if you want to see it too. So this is straight from Jimmy Butler's mouth, and he went out of his way to say, nobody's going to tell me, nobody can claim I'm not playing hard. I'm playing hard. If my numbers are down, if my usage is down, it's because, or if my numbers are down, it's because my usage and my shots are down. And he, like I said, took repeated attacks at the coaching staff, essentially Eric Spoelstra, because he has issue with the way he's being used, essentially as a point guard, running the offense, a facilitator. And he claimed a couple of times that his shots were down. It's hard to decipher whether or not his shots are down because he was told his shots were going to be down. He was going to be more of a facilitator, or if his shots are down because he's not playing hard anymore or not as engaged offensively. It might be a combination of all these things. What's striking about this is that this entire time, Jimmy Butler's issue has been with Pat Riley and that front office that refused to entertain a contract extension back in the spring and was never given that. And then he was obviously called out by Pat Riley at his end of season press conference. That relationship was severed at that moment and has not recovered since then. But this is the first time we've heard Jimmy Butler attack Eric Spoelstra.
Mm-hmm.
And that part is really interesting here. And I don't know if Jimmy Butler is actually upset or if he's just kind of casting a wide net here and just burning the whole thing to the ground. But he clearly is telling people and indicating to people, because everything that was coming out of Miami was, hey, it serves Jimmy Butler better to play hard no matter what, because he's going to want to create a trade market for himself if he indeed wants out of here. And Jimmy Butler, and this whole thing has been a game of poker where people are just raising and calling each other's bluffs. And Jimmy Butler just said, okay, you want to play it that way? Fine. I'm not going to give you the numbers. I'm not going to give you the production. And then I'm going to sit here at the podium and say, it's not because I'm not playing hard. I could still help a contender win. I am still capable of being dominant. And I'm paraphrasing here, but this is essentially what he said. And it's because of the way now I'm being used. And that's an interesting card to play. I got to be honest. I didn't see it coming. I don't know that any other front offices around the league see it that way, but it's interesting that he's framing it that way.
Yeah, it kind of deflects it away from him, right? Like this is a very clear tactic. I don't know if he was coached up. I don't know if it's something innate in Jimmy and his understanding. I don't know if he really feels this way. Like there might be a part of him that actually believes that he's been told his role is different and that he's forced to play differently. And yet this season we've seen him play Jimmy Butler style of basketball, where he brings the ball up, where he initiates, where he drives, he attacks, he does the things that we've come to expect from Jimmy Butler. And so for him to say that his role is different now, I can't accept that. Like I don't buy it. I don't buy that the coaching staff has told him that his role is different, that they might want him to do things slightly differently to get Tyler involved or to get Bam involved might be one thing, but I don't think that reduces his role so drastically that you could say, well, that's why I only scored 5 points tonight. Right? That's why I refused to shoot technical free throws.
What's interesting?
That's why I didn't play defense at a high level, etc.
First play of the game, Jimmy Butler drives to the basket, comes off a screen, drives to the basket, scores on a layup. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Did not score another point until the third quarter. Didn't score another field goal. I'm sorry. I think he got to the line. Didn't score another field goal until the third quarter. I was at the game on Media Row, and I see right before tip-off, Jimmy Butler goes to Tyler Hero. And they're talking about something. And you can kind of see Jimmy kind of pat his chest or something. And my guess right there is saying that he was like, get me the ball or something like that or whatever. Yeah.
First, yeah.
Jimmy gets the ball and then passes it to Tyler. Tyler brings it up. Jimmy goes to the corner. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Jimmy's actually doing the opposite. He's like, Spo wants me to have the ball. I don't want it. You take it. I'm going to the corner. So Jimmy goes to the corner and then comes up from the corner, gets a screen set for him, grabs the ball from Tyler Hero on a handoff, and then goes around another screen, drives to the basket. Oh, he called his own number. That's cool. Like he saw something and he got the matchup that he wanted. I wonder if that's not the play that Spo called. I'm wondering if Spo said, I want Jimmy facilitating on this because the Bam tipped it to Jimmy. I want Jimmy facilitating on this, and then we're going to run this different play. And Jimmy just audibled at the last second on the court. But then why would you do that? And I know this is reckless speculation here, but I wonder if like Jimmy Butler was just like, here's what I can do. Here's a little taste, and you're not going to see it again for the rest of the night.
No, I think it's exactly it. Like that's what I'm thinking as you're painting this scenario. Like in hindsight, maybe we're kind of coming to the conclusion and kind of putting the puzzle pieces together with a picture that we're much more comfortable seeing now that this report is out and now that we've heard from him in his post-game press conference. But it kind of just sounds like this is a tactic of him saying, I'm capable of doing this whenever the hell I damn well want to. And I can do this at any point in time. You're just not letting me do this. And that's why I'm frustrated. That's why I'm upset. But again, I call BS on that because I just don't see that his role has to be any different and that he can still dictate the terms of how he's used because we've seen him kind of take things over.
He did it on the first possession. If he wants to take it over, he could take it over.
And I'm sure he's fine with it.
I'm sure he is, and I'm sure he bristled at Eric Spoelstra for questioning his effort because there's one thing that Jimmy Butler always takes pride in is his effort for whatever reason. And a lot of people have questioned his effort, people on this program included, mostly me. And I stand by that. I don't think he's always fully engaged on it every night, especially last year. But and I don't think he was putting up the effort Wednesday night or tonight in this game either, right? And so I think all of that is totally fair. I just don't think he wants that to be the narrative out there because it does hurt his trade value. And I think that's why he's pinning some blame on Erik Spoelstra. And by the way, Erik Spoelstra has called him out and they've almost gotten to a fight on the sidelines. I do think that they've, obviously they've brushed before, but if it's on his list of grievances, I don't think it's at the top. The top is the money. The top is the contract. The top is Pat Riley. And this stuff is just sort of adding fuel to the fire. Now, I do think Jimmy Butler, you kind of referenced this before. Was he coached up? Did he plan on this? I think he 100% planned to speak with the media tonight. I think this was very scripted. I think everything was very intentional.
Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
This is where you just got to appreciate greatness, folks.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
A lot of layers to this one, Matt Kolsky. And by the way, my name is Charlie Walter. Formerly at 95.7 The Game in the Bay Area, cover the Golden State Warriors on the flagship station, also cover the team in their championship run in 21-22, was in Boston for the finals, some champagne for CBS News Bay Area, KPIX. Matt Kolsky did the same at 95.7 The Game. Let's just get an opening thought right out of the gate before I kind of tease what's coming up on the show. Just one word that describes, I said vintage. Give me one word that describes what we just saw.
Well, my first thought is I didn't get Nan champagne representing 95.7 The Game, so congratulations to you. My second thought... They
gave that to Dickinson, man. Boots on the ground was probably getting sprayed in the face.
R.I.P. me. I just love this.
I literally asked for one word, Kolsky, and just love this. You had to give me three. Love. It's a love story.
Love. I don't even know what to say about the guy. And, a lesser human would have gone for the record. I don't know if you caught that from Brian Anderson and Reggie, but 9 for 9 is the best ever perfect three-point shooting game. And
Steph wasn't trying to come out. There was the play with Dennis Schroeder going in there. I think
that was earlier
in the fourth. Yeah,
that was earlier. He sat down when it was time to sit down. And look, part of that's Steve Kerr too. But just what can you say about Steph Curry? Nobody hits a heater in the history of basketball like Steph Curry does. And it's one of the best things to watch. It's one of the reasons why I think he has, listen, I'll say this till the cows come home. I believe Steph Curry is one of the 10 or 15 greatest basketball players in the history of the world.
Transcendent.
And yet I still think he maybe is even more popular than that, right? He is more beloved even than his standing in the all-time basketball hierarchy. And it's because the pure joy of watching him go nuclear the way he did.
What's crazy, Kolsky? To cut you off, pure joy is not something that I would have said 6 minutes into the game because the Warriors got off to a hot start. Like this one was really never even close. My lasting image was after the Warriors went 13 of 13 assist-wise, 13 buckets, 13 assists in the first quarter. Buddy Hield just holding up his arms in triumph as he's like, I finally knocked one down. Lindy, you knocked one down. Moses, you knocked one down. Kaminga got hot. It was
you get a three. And you
get a three. Everyone got a three in this game. And they showed him with like 7 minutes left in the first quarter. Warriors were up 9, and he did look happy. He plays with so much joy, and he just looked frustrated. It was after a specific play. By the end of this game, it was pure jubilation from everyone, man. It felt like the fall again.
Yeah. Steph was quoted coming into this game, you don't go 12-3 on accident. And he's right. I mean, there are factors, right? It was a easier schedule as 15 game stretches go, and they were remarkably healthy over that stretch. They got some really good performances from some inconsistent dudes. All of that's true, but you still don't go 12-3 by accident. On the other hand, you don't go whatever it is 4-13 by accident either, right? So this team is somewhere in the middle. And the thing about the Western Conference is that little variance in the middle can take you anywhere from the 4th seed to the 9th or 10th seed, right? So that's the trick for the Warriors. And, look, somebody in the chat already saying it's just the Sixers, and the Sixers are pretty rough. Like,
they've been hot, though. They'd won 8 of 10. They turned it around. But based on the eye test today, like, they were abysmal, man.
It's tough, too. They've lost Jared McCain for the year now. Like, they're 9 times, Ferris, they've had this big three on the floor at the same time. It's not enough, and I'm actually a guy that is pretty much in favor of getting whoever needs rest. Like, I don't think that's really a big issue for the NBA. I think it's much more discussed than it needs to be, but you got to play together. I mean, if you're going to have any aspirations whatsoever, your best players got to play together. They got to know how to play together. And
your best player has to lead by example. And Embiid was just, I mean, they said it at on the TNT halftime show tonight, that Kenny did the breakdown at the big board and just showed all the missed opportunities where Embiid is fading away and refusing to use his size. I mean, you're 7'1", man. Take it up strong. Finally did it late in the game and scored some points. But there was a minute there where he just kept bailing the Warriors out, playing on the perimeter, and his defense was equally as bad. And Maxey can't make a damn layup, man. I don't know what happened to his finishing game. He can shoot the ball, but, man, I have never seen it. It was almost impressive how many layups he missed tonight in and out.
Yeah, I think it's just an off night for Tyrese Maxey. He's the one guy I'm not too worried about there. But with Embiid, it makes me sad more than anything, because I am not one who believes that he's got a huge effort problem or a will and determination problem. I think his body is just brutal. Like, I just think the human body was not meant to support that level of size and movement. And he just looks old physically to me. What is he, 28, 29 years old? He's not an old guy. He's not an old guy.
Like, he's about at Wiggins' age, right?
Yeah, but he moves like a much older person. And there are plays where, like, he's not getting back on defense, but I think he's calculating risk, and that's a terrible thing to have. It almost reminds me of watching, like, old man Sabonis back in the day. Like, I am afraid every time he's involved in any sort of physical interaction. I don't know, man. Everything they said.
You talking Arvydas with just braces on every joint of his body, just like 4 braces.
and Arvydas too would do some things at times that made you go, whoa. But then he's limping up the floor. And Embiid obviously is not that bad. I mean, that was a 36-year-old arthritic Arvydas Sabonis that I'm talking about. But there are just these moments where, like you said, late in the game, he got into it. He started banging. He scored some points anyway. I don't know if you could say he had a major impact. A lot of that fadeaway stuff feels to me like a guy who's doing everything he can and just doesn't feel like he has it in his body to attack the basket 30 times a night. And that's a bummer.
I want to get into this game a little bit deeper. Coming up, we're going to talk Dennis Schroeder. He finally has a coming out party. And I said this, Kolsky. I'm going to show you the proof.
I got the timestamp, yeah.
You got the timestamp, man. I absolutely said he's going off tonight. The law of averages says that he has to go off. And quite frankly, the law of averages said that the entire Warriors team was going to all start hitting some buckets at some point. It had been 30% effort after 30% effort. Tonight, the Sixers gave them clean looks, and the Warriors just buried them. Draymond Green, Steph, and Curry They were just maestros, surgeons with the basketball in their hands, smart basketball. The turnovers were down and everyone got involved.
FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. The final game of the NFL regular season will determine the top seed in the NFC. FanDuel has the Lions 2.5-point favorites over the Vikings. The total, get this, 56.5. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Boston Celtics get what I think is their best win of the season. Celtics beats the Minnesota Timberwolves 118-115. Anthony Edwards and his comments, wow. I'm saving that the best for last because I want to talk about the Celtics and basketball and all of that stuff. And then Anthony Edwards versus Jason Tatum, and those comments are coming up later. We'll get to what Tatum did to Rudy Gobert and Derek White and all of the individual stuff. The second quarter, like I said. Let's start with this. I may be giving into some recency bias, but I think this is the best win of the season for the Celtics. I think this is, considering no Porzingis, no Jaylen Brown, Minnesota fully healthy, what they did to Anthony Edwards defensively, how they destroyed Rudy Gobert with Jason Tatum. The game plan was incredible. They executed it well. They protected the ball really well. The turnovers, the big story here, I think, in this game is the turnovers, which the Celtics had 4 turnovers for 4 points, and the Timberwolves had 16 turnovers for 22 points. This is a game where if that didn't happen, the Celtics absolutely would have lost. They needed to turn the Timberwolves over 16 times. They needed to protect the ball themselves. And they needed to score off of those turnovers. They needed to win these margins, the shooting margins. They needed that because Minnesota, when I say the Celtics probably should not have won this game, Minnesota shot 21 of 39 from 3, 54%. They were 20 of 22 from the line. The Celtics were 4 of 6 from the line. So only 6 free throws. The disparity there, they lost the free throw line by 16 points. But the Celtics managed to turn over the Timberwolves and get 22 points and get all those extra possessions. This is where they won this game. 92 field goal attempts for Boston, 74 for Minnesota. So as hot as Minnesota was, the Celtics, with their volume, actually won the three-point battle by going 22 of 57, 38.6%, which I would say is just a normal good shooting night. Slightly above average. It dips into like the good shooting night, but not like a phenomenal shooting night. Like Minnesota had a 54% phenomenal shooting night for them. Jaden McDaniels, 4 of 8. Julius Randle, 5 of 7. Naz Reid, 4 of 5. Those guys kept Minnesota in it. But the Celtics, by getting more points off those turnovers, that means layups, that means transition opportunities, and the opportunity to put up 57. I know it sounds like a lot, and people are complaining about it, but you shouldn't. 57 three-point attempts. They got up to the 22 makes, so they actually won the three-point battle by 3. And now they make up for the difference on the 2-point side. And all of the baskets that they get on the 2-point side makes up for the 20 free throws, the 16 free throw disparity that they suffered in this game. So it was an incredible, despite the shooting percentage. I thought, generally speaking, this was a pretty good defensive game. They had their lapses for sure. There were a few moments of overhelping. There are a few bad decisions on when to double and who to help off of. And there was also some outlier shooting from the Timberwolves. So obviously they're not a 54% three-point shooting team. They shot well. Julius Randle, 5 of 7. I mean, he can hit threes, but like not 71% of them. So you got outlier performances there, but also the Celtics made some mistakes defensively. But this is absolutely in no way what we've seen from them in other games. This is when they have a game like they had against Philly on Christmas, or the game they lost to Indiana, where we're like, hey, defensively, what's the problem? And they start throwing like, oh no, we're fine, and this and that and that. No. The Celtics gave up 115 points in this, and this was a much, much, much better defensive game than a lot of the games that they've played where they gave up fewer points. I thought they played great generally. Again, what they did to Anthony Edwards, they scowled throughout the game. If you played a drinking game where you had to drink every time he said they're sitting on his left hand, you might not survive. Like, you would have had your stomach pumped by the third quarter. Like, he said it so often, but that the Celtics were trying to get him away from the left-hand drives, pull-ups. Right-handed shooters like to go left to shoot, which is, it sounds weird, but when you're dribbling with your right hand, you have to bring the ball over to your left as the guide hand, right? This is a quick little thing when it comes to basketball. You have to bring the ball with your righty over to your left when you're bringing it up, because you can't just you have to hold it, right? But when you're dribbling with your left, it's already there. You bring it to your shooting hand. It's a natural shooting motion. So a left-hand dribble, you'll see Tatum pick and roll going to his left, shoots well. Right-handed shooters going to their left tend to have, like, you can get square. You bring the ball right into your natural shooting motion. It's all comfortable. The Celtics took that away from Anthony Edwards, and he couldn't get to those pull-up jumpers until later on, where he finally got a couple to fall, including the look that he had at the potential game-tying three-pointer. So all of that was great defense and great execution. Joe keeps talking about, like, there's always 10 to 12, 15 possessions you can clean up, and there were certainly that here, but the stuff that they need to clean up is certainly fixable, right? Decision-making stuff. The Celtics, I thought, great win, forcing the turnovers, live ball turnovers, aggressive, very good.